You were not made to chase approval. You were made to carry authority. But authority doesn't come from noise. It comes from alignment. And alignment begins in the secret places long before it shows in public. God looks at the root, not the fruit. He is not impressed by what man applauds. He is drawn to what man can see. A heart fully surrendered, a mind fully focused, a life fully available. This is why you've been uncomfortable lately, why doors that used to open aren't moving, why conversations feel hollow, why distractions feel heavier than usual. Because God is removing anything that competes with His voice in your life. You prayed for elevation, now He's clearing space. You asked for purpose, now He's pruning comfort. You wanted clarity, and clarity always comes with cost. Because the mindset God blesses can't be built on clutter. It needs space to grow. It needs discipline to be formed. It needs silence to be heard. So stop running from the silence. That's where God does His loudest work. That's where identities are rebuilt. That's where warriors are trained in secret so they can carry light in public. And let's be real, this world is loud. It's constantly throwing noise at your spirit, trying to convince you that you need more to be more. More applause, more followers, more validation. But God doesn't bless the busy. He blesses the rooted. He blesses those who move slow enough to hear Him, who stop scrolling long enough to feel Him, who stop asking for more and start becoming more. You want to know what God favors? A spirit that refuses to be swayed by circumstance, a mind so anchored in truth, storms can't move it, a heart that says, even if it's hard, I'll still obey. That's what brought Moses to the mountain. That's what led Esther into the palace. That's what gave Elijah the courage to stand alone. Not perfect confidence, not loud charisma, but quiet conviction. And that kind of mindset doesn't form by accident. It forms through discipline, because discipline is worship. Discipline says, I trust what God told me more than what I feel today. So you show up, even when it's dry, even when you don't see results, even when everyone else gets to play casual with their life. You stay consistent, because purpose is never casual, and calling is never convenient. The mindset God blesses is built in consistency, not convenience, built in waking up early, not waiting until it's easy, built in saying no to distractions so you can say yes to destiny. And when you do that, doors begin to move, not because you force them open, but because heaven recognizes hunger. That's what Jesus saw in the crowd. Not perfection, posture, people reaching, crying out, tearing through roofs, touching the edge of His robe, not because they had it all together, but because they believed. And belief, real belief, isn't passive. It moves, it speaks, it walks toward the impossible with confidence, not in self, but in the one who called you. That's why belief must come before breakthrough. You won't see it until you believe it. You won't hold it until your mind knows it's already yours. Because heaven doesn't respond to hesitation. It responds to faith in motion. And faith in motion will look like risk. It will look like walking on water. It will look like leaving safe places. It will look like stepping out when no one claps, no one sees, and no one understands. But that's where God meets you. When Peter stepped out of the boat, he wasn't walking on water. He was walking on a word. One word, one call, one step that separated him from comfort and pulled him into calling. God has already spoken a word over you. It's buried under your doubt, under your timeline, under your need to have it all figured out. But that word is still alive. And when your mindset aligns with it, when your feet follow it, that's when the impossible becomes normal. Because the mindset God blesses isn't afraid to go alone, isn't afraid to go again, isn't afraid to go when it hurts. And maybe that's where you are right now. Mid-struggle, mid-process, midnight hour wondering, God, where are you? He's right where He's always been. In the fire, in the waiting, in the whisper, not fixing your storm, fortifying your soul. You're not being punished, you're being positioned. And when the time is right, the door will open, not by might, not by hustle, but by faith obedience, and alignment. That's what the mindset God blesses looks like. Focused, faithful, free from the pressure to prove anything. Because when you know who sent you, you don't need to force anything. You don't chase, you attract. You don't beg, you build. You don't wish, you walk. The ones God blesses, they carry themselves with quiet fire. They live like every moment matters. They speak with intention. They give with joy. They suffer with grace. They lead with love. And they rise, not for applause, but for assignment. And now you know, God isn't just blessing potential. He's blessing preparation. He's watching how you carry yourself in the delay, how you talk when the promise feels far, how you respond when the platform is empty but the purpose is still real. Because this is what makes you different. You don't need the outcome to stay obedient. You don't need the miracle to stay faithful. You don't need the results to keep building. You know what the world doesn't understand? That the favor of God doesn't follow comfort. It follows commitment. Commitment to integrity. Commitment to growth. Commitment to doing what's right, even when no one is clapping for it. And maybe you've been hidden for a while, buried in preparation, overlooked, underestimated. But listen closely. God hides his greatest warriors until the right moment. He doesn't rush the reveal. He refines the soul, because when the light hits your life, it will expose everything, and only the rooted can survive the spotlight. So if it's quiet, if it feels slow, if no one's watching yet, good. That means he's still working, still stripping off the fear, still chiseling away the pride, still building a foundation that can carry the weight of legacy. Because the blessing God wants to give you isn't just for your enjoyment, it's for impact, for generations, for freedom, for others who will rise because you chose to believe when it was hardest. That's the kind of person God blesses, not the one who avoids pain, not the one who settles, but the one who decides, I will not die with this purpose inside me. I will not let fear rob me of what God already promised. I will become the person heaven can trust with influence, success, and legacy. And let me tell you what happens when you get to that place. When your inner world is solid, when your thoughts are aligned with heaven, when your decisions match your destiny, you walk into rooms with a different kind of authority. Not because of titles, not because of wealth, but because of wholeness. That's the real blessing. Peace that doesn't shake, joy that isn't borrowed, power that doesn't scream, it just is. And when others look at you and ask, how did you do it? You won't say it was luck, you won't say it was hustle, it was God, and it was obedience. Because at the end of the day, success in God's eyes isn't measured by numbers, it's measured by faithfulness. Were you faithful with the vision? Were you faithful when it was dry? Were you faithful when it wasn't fair? Were you faithful when it looked like nothing was happening? That's the test. That's what separates the called from the chosen. That's what unlocks the next level of favor. So today, decide not just to believe in God, but to believe like Him, to see with kingdom eyes, to think with heaven's logic, to move with the unshakable confidence of someone who knows, if God sent me, I can't lose. If He called me, He'll equip me. If He promised it, He'll fulfill it, through me, not around me. That is the mindset God blesses, not just on Sunday, not just when it's easy, but daily, deeply, deliberately. So take the pain and build. Take the delay and grow. Take the vision and move. You don't need to wait for a perfect moment. This is the moment. This is your hour. This is your cue to rise. And when you do, when your feet hit the ground with alignment, purpose, and power, heaven will recognize the sound, and doors you didn't knock on will start opening. Battles you didn't fight will start shifting. Provision you didn't chase will start flowing, because God always blesses the mind that is ready to carry what He has been waiting to give.